Hi folks, I'm Dr. Ed Beyer of Beyer Natural Health Solutions. I've been in practice for 33 years. I practice what's known as functional medicine. And today we're going to talk about how to naturally put your Crohn's disease into remission. "14 reasons why you have Crohn's disease and that your gastroenterologist never looks at." The first thing that I want you to understand is that there's this huge difference between traditional medicine and functional medicine. I practice functional medicine. We've been able to get people with Crohn's disease, dozens and dozens over the years I've been in practice, into remission, utilizing and doing the things you're going to learn in this video. Traditional medicine is a pharmaceutically based, and they manage your symptoms only through immunosuppressants, and sometimes they do surgeries, right? So that is not addressing the underlying issues. Functional medicine, we do specific lab testing to identify why do you have it. We care about what you have, but we're more interested in why. So don't expect your gastroenterologist to know, understand, or accept what you're going to be learning in this video. So what it is, Crohn's disease is an inflammatory bowel disease. There's 3 of them. There's Crohn's, ulcerative colitis, and there's celiac disease. These are all autoimmune diseases. In Crohn's disease, what happens, it can affect your entire GI tract, from mouth to anus. Ulcerative colitis is just the colon and anus. Now, the way the diagnosis of Crohn's, there's no one test to make a Crohn's diagnosis. High levels of a chemical called fecal calprotectin is suspicious. An MRI, CT scan, endoscopy, colonoscopy, or a biopsy is going to show clusters of inflammatory cells known as granulomas. And the medical approach to this, immediately the first line of defense are anti-inflammatory drugs like corticosteroids, prednisone. Many of you know this already. This is meant to be a short-term solution. It's not meant to be long-term because there are serious side effects to corticosteroids. You increase the risk of infections because you're suppressing your immune system. It lowers thyroid function. Many of you don't know that. It thins the bone. I just read a study that if you're on prednisone for 10 days, your chances of developing osteoporosis go up 210% the rest of your life. If you're on it for a year, your chances to develop osteoporosis go up 21,000%. Corticosteroids break down the gut barrier, which causes leaky gut, which causes more autoimmunity. It suppresses adrenal function. It causes high blood sugar. It makes you gain weight and cause glaucoma and cause memory problems, high blood pressure. So it isn't something that you want to be on long term. Now, the other thing, the second step with Crohn's disease, medical treatment, are immunosuppressant drugs. You know, the so-called biologics, Imurin, Remicade, Humira, all these different things. Have you ever listened to the side effect of those medications on the TV commercials? It may increase your risk for cancer. Why? We all have cancer cells in us. Part of the immune system job is to remove those cancer cells. If you're suppressing the immune system, your chances of cancer go up. Your chances of infection go up. So I'm not against these things, but we don't take our patients off them right away, but we identify what you're going to learn about today, the underlying triggers, remove them, and then you can gradually go off them. And then I've had so many patients that have come to me that have had feet of their intestines removed by surgery. And as soon as we work on them, they go for their yearly CT scans and they're all clear. So there's a high prevalence of surgery. Many of you who are listening to this may have had surgery from Crohn's disease. So what do all these medical approaches have in common? They're not addressing the underlying cause to why the immune system is attacking the intestinal wall. And they have serious side effects. That's why I'm passionate about this. With alternative functional medicine, we approach Crohn's disease and we put it into remission. The information that you're going to gain in this video is all in the scientific literature. It's not my opinion or what I think is right. But don't expect your gastroenterologist. They look at it from a medical perspective. We look at it from why do you have it? So an important concept is that the triggers to Crohn's disease vary from person to person. This is not a cookie cutter method. That's why we got to do the testing, because you could have someone with Crohn's here, someone with Crohn's here, exact same symptoms, and what's causing each other could be totally different. So here's a list of the 14 triggers. There are others, but these are the ones over 33 years of doing this of Crohn's disease. Let's get into it because there's a lot of information I want to share. Number 1, poor barrier systems. The biggest barrier between the outside world and the inside of our body is a 1-cell layer lining in our small intestine. If you took it out and ironed it, it would cover 2 tennis courts, right? That barrier system keeps things in the gut and not into the circulation. When we get microscopic holes in that barrier system, it's like having holes in your screen door on a hot summer day. Things start to make their way into the circulation, and guess what your immune system's gonna do? It's gonna start attacking it because it doesn't belong. And that triggers Crohn's disease. It triggers the immune system. When the immune system's overworked, then it's going to make mistakes, it's gonna trigger Crohn's and other autoimmune conditions. So if things are getting in that don't belong in and your immune system's being overworked. Leaky gut is the gateway to any autoimmune disease. It's the thing we have to fix first. And then the second cause is inflammatory diet and just generally systemic inflammation. If you have blood sugar too high or blood sugar too low, insulin levels are fluctuating and insulin's super inflammatory. One of the biggest inflammatory things that a lot of Americans eat are poor fats, things like hydrogenated oils, trans fats, canola oil, soybean oil, and other processed vegetable oils, alcohol, tobacco, caffeine, high histamine foods, high lectin foods, and FODMAPs, which are, for a lot of people, undigestible short sugars, causing things like irritable bowel. Number 3, the third cause of Crohn's disease, poor detoxification systems. Look, if we have these different detox systems in our body that if they're working, it eliminates things out of the body so your immune system doesn't have to deal with them. But if these detoxification systems aren't working, we're putting a larger load on the immune system, and that's when it makes mistakes and attacks your intestinal wall. Things like liver function, gallbladder function, liver is a detoxifier, your kidneys, low exercise, poor sleep, and poor lung function. The way we get rid of things, folks, is we poop them out, we pee them out, we sweat them out, and we breathe them out. And if you're not doing that, if the liver isn't working, kidneys not working, you're not sweating, you're not exercising, sleep is when we detox the body. And if the lungs aren't working right, you're not breathing, you're not eliminating these toxins, and we're putting a larger load on the immune system, and that triggers Crohn's and other autoimmune diseases. Number 4 are food sensitivities. Folks, the food we eat today is very different than the food we ate 30, 40 years ago. It's been genetically modified, there's been chemical additives, and wheat's been deaminated. So we eat it, and our immune systems down here are like, hey, this is not the same food Grandma and Grandpa ate, right? And our immune systems, it takes generations for them to get to adapt to these changes. And so they react to these food sensitivities, and that is a huge trigger to autoimmune disease. We test for this, and then we can eliminate them from the diet, and those vary from person to person. Number 5 are environmental chemical sensitivities. Things like pollen, mold, dust, pets, mildew, cigarette smoke, first or secondhand, bisphenol A, which is in plastic, parabens, aflatoxins, heavy metals like nickel, cobalt, cadmium, lead. We can check for that to see if you have a heavy metal toxicity and why it's not getting rid of the body. This is a huge stimulant to Crohn's disease. I've seen a lot of cases of that. Number 6 are infections. Most of these infections, they can be dental, but the ones that we see more commonly are actually in the gut. So, which is where your autoimmune problem is at. So gut infections are ubiquitous when it comes to Crohn's disease. We see things like H. pylori and Campylobacter. We see yeast overgrowth. We see normal bacteria overgrowing. When that happens, 80% of your immune system is in the gut. And if the gut flora and the microbiome in the gut is off, then there's no way you're going to be able to get your Crohn's disease in remission. We test for this through a DNA test that's very specific, and we're able to get rid of these infections pretty quickly through natural methods. Number 7 is poor thyroid function. Look, the thyroid is a huge player when it comes to immunity. And there are so many ways that thyroid can go wrong. There's actually 22 of them. And traditional medicine only looks at one. So it's woefully inept. So we run 9 to 10 markers on our thyroid panel to see, hey, is this person with Crohn's got a properly functioning thyroid that allows the immune system to work well? If you don't, we have to fix that. Number 8 is poor adrenal function. The adrenal glands produce this hormone called cortisol. Cortisol is a major immune modulator. Think of the name cortisol, it's like cortisone. It gets rid of inflammation. But if it's too low, you're going to be inflamed. If it's too high, that's going to shut down the immune system. So poor adrenal function is something that we have to look at, and there's many reasons why the adrenal glands can go wrong. We look at them through proper testing, and we correct it so you have proper amounts of cortisol and your immune system can work better. Number 9, poor gut immunity. Many of you have poor acidity in the stomach. You may think you have too much, but most of you have too little, and then you're not breaking down your food, and the acid you do have reflux up. When the pH is off in the stomach, the pH is going to be off throughout the gut. And those of you who own a pool, and most of you who don't even know, if the pH is off in the pool, things overgrow. So that we see in the gut is the gut flora starts to overgrow or undergrow, and now you don't produce these things called short-chain fatty acids, which are really powerful immune modulators. So the microbiome and the pH of the gut is super, super important. So is motility. So if you're constipated, we got to fix that, because if you're constipated, you're not removing toxins out of the body. Number 10 is one that we see sometimes in females' pregnancy. There's an abrupt shift in the immune system immediately after birth. We see a lot of females come to us and say, you know what, I was doing great till after that third child, because there's a shift in the immunity that can occur, and genes can flip on and make you autoimmune. Number 11 are genetic mutations. So we do a cheek swab test and we look for 21 different genetic mutations. So there are certain genes that are heavily involved in proper immune function. One of them is called the BCMO1. This is a gene that allows us to make vitamin A in its active form, and vitamin A is a huge component in regulating the immune system. MTHFR, some of you may have heard of this. This is a gene that has to do with methylation. Methylation is the process by which the good genes get turned on and the bad genes get turned off. So that's extremely important, and we have to check for it. And what's nice with these genetic mutations is there's always ways to circumvent them, but we can't circumvent them unless we know. Now, I know this is a lot of information. You're not going to catch all this, but if you want a more detailed description of how we manage and support Crohn's disease, then click on one of the links below. Number 12 is nutritional deficiencies. Vitamin A, vitamin D, essential fatty acids are extremely important. And those are all fat soluble, folks. If you don't have a gallbladder, a lot of you don't, then you need to supplement with these or take bile acids so you're able to absorb your fat soluble toxins. Fat soluble nutrients. Glutathione. If you're autoimmune, glutathione is your best friend. And this is something that's produced in the body, but when you're autoimmune, you need extra amounts of it. Number 13 is poor brain function. So there's an area in the brain called the hypothalamus and pituitary gland, and these are what we call our autonomic nervous system part. This is the part of the brain that controls things automatically, like our immune system. So the hypothalamus and pituitary gland, they're kind of like our air traffic control tower of our hormones and our immune system. We don't consciously think about it. But there are things that will shut this area of the brain down. Things like systemic inflammation, high cortisol, low serotonin, low progesterone, low dopamine will suppress the hypothalamus, and you'll have lower immunity, and you'll have poor regulation of your immune system, and that triggers Crohn's. And number 14 is one, there's a lot of studies on this. Psychological stress, there's a belief out there, and there's actually some science to substantiate it, and don't take me wrong, not everybody has this, but when people self-deprecate or they don't feel good about themselves, the immune system kind of listens to that, and they start attacking themselves. You attack yourself mentally, you may be attacking yourself immunologically too. So when I see that in the history, this is someone I'm going to refer out for proper counseling. So there are 6 tests all Crohn's sufferers should get. Comprehensive blood work using functional ranges, not lab ranges, and food sensitivity testing is imperative. Leaky gut testing. We'll do genetic testing, stool testing, DNA stool testing, and proper hormone testing. Folks, I hope this information you enjoyed it. If you did, don't forget to subscribe for more upcoming videos. Also, if you know people that have an autoimmune disease and might need this information, please like and share for more great content for them. I'm Dr. Ed Beyer of Beyer Natural Health Solutions. Have a great day.